Menos mais monte.
Hello everyone,
Vai
welcome
começar agora o
back to GDQ. I'm Jack, I'll be running Pikmin 2 Payoff Debt. And with me I have two of my illustrious commentators.
Hi, I'm the Urban Deer, or Urban. I am also a Pikmin 2 speedrunner.
I am Cap, and along with Urban and Jack, I am also a Pikmin 2 speedrunner. And we're happy to be here.
Okay, so on that note, and unless the sort of sound of God tells me I shouldn't do so, I'll start in 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1 e
okay, so
começamos.
To briefly introduce the overall goal of this game, I know I said it before in the interview, it's about getting 10,000 Pokos as fast as possible. So that's based on the fact
o objetivo do jogo
é
você ter 10 mil do dinheirinho mais rápido possível. É quase o N% para isso. Se eu não me engano, ele vai ter que atravessar 8 cavernas e enfrentar alguns puzzles bem complicados para resolver isso. É o N% do jogo.
So Pikmin runs in general or Pikmin games in general are known for kind of having a tutorial day for the first day. And Pikmin 2 luckily is the game that the Pikmin game where we can pretty much entirely skip that tutorial day. So you're going to see Jack here.
Todo Pikmin tem um dia de tutorial em que você aprende as mecânicas básicas do jogo. E o Pikmin 2 é o único jogo da franquia inteira, por enquanto até agora, é que você consegue skipar todo o tutorial, o dia de tutorial. Pikmin é uma série da Nintendo em que você viaja para um planeta que tem esses bichinhos chamados Pikmin.
So the early part of the game here is really just about getting to the highest number of Pikmin as quickly as possible as we can. So obviously when you start at a low number, it's going to take longer to grow.
A história do Pikmin é meio bizarra. Tá, gente? Então não me peçam para entender pra contar a história do Pikmin, ela é bizarríssima. Você joga um personagem chamado Capitão Olimar, se eu não me engano, é isso? Eu nunca lembro o nome do cara. Isso, Olimar, o nome dele é Olimar. E a primeira vez você vai parar num planeta misterioso onde tem esses bichinhos chamados Pikmin. E ele tem uma sequência de jogos muito grandes e fora que tem finais variados dependendo das suas ações. No primeiro jogo, se eu não me engano, você tem que reconstruir a sua nave espacial. E então você utiliza os Pikmins e a ajuda deles para poder reconstruir sua nave. E nessa parte, assim, pra quem jogou casualmente, sabe que ele tá fazendo uma ordem totalmente reversa. Ele vai pra um planeta que é totalmente misterioso, não lembro qual que é o nome do planeta, em que ele enxerga numa perspectiva meio que microscópica. E você faz esses bichinhos chamados Pikmin, que são como se fossem uma espécie de alienígenas plantas para resolver as tasks para você.
Severe mental damage if you miss it. But basically you can basically interrupt any cutscene.
Nesse 2, se eu não me engano, tem uma segunda personagem chamada Lori, que também pode controlar os Pikmin igual você. Então você vai ter que resolver esse planeta. Encontrei o nome do planeta. O nome do planeta é o BNF404.
Yeah, we didn't get it, so we're gonna have to watch the cutscene of shame.
E você descobre que a Locate Flight, que é como se fosse a NASA deles, que está com um débito de 10 mil do dinheirinho deles. E você que tem que resolver esse problema pra eles. Então você pega o Olimar e os Pikmins. Você pega os Pikmins pra poder resolver esses puzzles e conseguir dinheiro suficiente pra pagar esse débito.
The first 3 days, and so now he's in a position to get over that bag. That's all.
Yeah, so the reason we have to end the days is because we physically don't have the resources on the map to feed enough Pikmin, if you want to think of it that way, to grow 15. So we've got to really
E aí ele demora mais ou menos 15 dias para poder fazer os Pikmins, porque ele não tem custo suficiente por dia para fazer todos os Pikmins que ele precisa. Então agora ele conseguiu fazer os Pikmin suficiente para baixar aquela sacola gigante, sacola de papel, que pra gente é normal, para eles é enorme.
The one pellets, interestingly, are worth 2, even though they say 1 on them, if they're taken to the right color.
Cada Pikmin tem várias cores, porque existem puzzles específicos para aquela cor. E se você utiliza Pikmins diferentes para certos puzzles, você mata o Pikmin. Nós não queremos isso.
Sorry, go on.
You see Jack sort of meticulously pushing this egg down, and this is just to save us.
Ali é um ovo que você tem que empurrar a colina abaixo, mas ele tem um limite de tempo antes que ele exploda, e não queremos isso. Então ele vai trazer os Pikmins agora.
So unfortunate sort of thing there. Every now and then, the 10 pellet that's up there will not like latch correctly with the Pikmin.
Olha quanto Pikmin ele está criando, cara.
But it's as a result we're plucking these a bit later than we should. But overall the rest of the split's gone fine.
Tem Pikmin demais nisso, velho. Olha isso. O personagem principal é humano, o nome dele é Olimar. E ele é o primeiro humano a conseguir conversar e controlar essas criaturas plantas chamadas Pikmin. E no 2 você tem a aprendiz dele, que também consegue controlar os Pikmin. E você precisa de X Pikmins para passar certas partes. Por exemplo, essa sacola precisa de 35 Pikmins. Agora tem ele vai fazer um skip cutscene. Não, ele é o jogo exclusivo da Nintendo. Pikmin 1 e 2 é do GameCube. Pikmin 3 eu não lembro de qual plataforma que ele tem. Do Wii U, o Pikmin 3. Se não me engano, o 2 ainda tem no Wii também pra jogar, mas é normalmente jogar no GameCube pra fazer speedruns. E o Pikmin 4 eu acho que já saiu, não, tá em desenvolvimento para o Nintendo Switch. É uma série, uma franquia é uma franquia muito grande da Nintendo, vende muito da Nintendo. Lançaram um port pro Switch há pouco tempo, não sabia dessa não. O jogo se passa no jardim do Shigeru Miyamoto, sim. E a sexta série totalmente simulado, exato. É bem parecido com Vida de Insetos, já que você vê numa visão meio que microscópica dos objetos. Então, objetos comuns nossos tá tipo gigantesco. E agora ele passou da primeira parte, primeiro stage. E agora ele vai pra a caverna no sublevel 0.
Here we see Jack on his first sublevel, so he's going to be entering several caves throughout the run, and they'll have different sublevels.
No canal de Juno Game tem um vídeo sobre Pikmin que desmenteu essa cobertura do Jardim Miyamoto. Não tem como ter 100% de certeza, por isso que eu gosto dessa teoria. Mas é compreensível.
As a previous run. So you'll see lots of differences, and a lot of this speedrun is about kind of moving along with things and keeping up as things are different each run from run to run.
Agora pegou um 7-up, onde ele conseguiu 100 dinheirinhos dos 10 mil que ele precisa. Meio tipo grounded. Mais ou menos isso mesmo, o Ederon. Então, a gente... Agora ele começa a vender certas coisas para ele poder fazer dinheiro. Ele precisa fazer dinheiro. Se esse jogo faz sucesso no Japão, meu, é uma das franquias mais vendidas no Japão da Nintendo. Sem brincadeira, a franquia do Pikmin no Japão vende tanto ou mais que a franquia do Zelda lá no Japão.
So these are items that essentially upgrade our captain's kit. So think of them as like character upgrades. So that one, as you can see, is a map. So that is key for unlocking the next area that we're going to be going to and sort of continuing.
Pequeno astronauta comanda exército de alienígenas planos para lutar contra mundos e coletar coisas. Exatamente.
Be getting excited, hopefully, at this point for the carnage that's about to be ensued, because these are purple Pikmin.
Ground é baseado em Querido Encolher as Crianças. Então, o filme Querido Encolher as Crianças foi o que... uma inspiração para Pikmin.
But they are very, very, very useful. So they do increased damage and they have a blast radius where they land, which means they can both stun and like just instant kill certain smaller enemies.
Agora, ele pegou aqueles Pikmins um pouco mais diferentes, em que eles podem dar stun e certos inimigos ele consegue matar na hora. Ele precisa de 103 ali Pikmins pra fazer a coisa ali. Ele tá com 101. Eu gosto muito do jeito que é feito a câmera desse jogo, porque a câmera desse jogo ele traz toda essa coisa que o negócio é enorme. Na época que demos a notícia do Nintendo World em 2004, a informação que tínhamos é que o jogo se passava no jardim do cara. Isso é verdade. Sim, foi vendido como está no jardim do Miyamoto. Aí a gente vai vender essa Spherical Atlas agora, que é um globo, o cara. Então, essencialmente a gente vai tentar pegar objetos, o máximo de objetos possíveis de uma vez para poder vender esses objetos. Pikmin 2, seu nome, ele é de 2004. Ele saiu em abril de 2004.
The Pikmin pay off that speedrun, so bugs are not worth that much, but they are worth something. And over the course of the run, we actually usually try to get around 250 Pokos worth of bugs.
Miyamoto Garden Full jogo, exato. Aí a gente conseguiu pegar os primeiros itens e vender os primeiros itens para tentar fazer dinheiro. Numa entrevista de 2011, Miyamoto disse que foi mais uma forma de promover o jogo. Eu entendo a pergunta, ô Luan, porque se você estiver assistindo pelo mobile, às vezes é pequeno o layout para se enxergar.
So you'll hear us say that a lot probably throughout this run.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because they're not really bugs, are they monsters? I mean,
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So we affectionately call them bug bodies, as Urban says.
Core tem um exército de 53 Pikmin. Meu, é muito Pikmin que vocês desenvolvem nesse jogo. Jesus do céu. Aí essa ponte agora que ele tá tentando destruir é a ponte com mais HP do jogo.
Because it's sort of the limiting factor for how fast we can go. Like, it doesn't matter how fast we do all of this, really, to some degree. It's just about getting the gate down as fast as possible. So the reason we try and do this
enquanto isso, os outros Pikmin vai matando certos inimigos que vai aparecendo. Imagina o seguinte, você ser tão pequeno, mas tão pequeno, que Uma
Considering that the
lagartixa
gate's being
é
knocked
como
down,
um
maybe this would be a
dinossauro
good
pra
time for
você.
donations while we watch Jack
É um
meticulously grow an
conceito
ad.
muito bizarro isso.
Yes, completely agree.
Absolutely. We have $100 from the Sneaky Spy
Aqui
who
tá
says,
grande
Pikmin is a
demais.
game that means so
De
much
boa,
to me.
gente.
It's allowed me to meet so many wonderful people and make great friends. Always excited to see it being run. You got this, Jack. Shout out to the Pikmin speedrunning community.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Eu não
Indeed.
conheço
So I was about to say,
muita
Sneaky
gente
is
aqui
a
no Brasil
solid
que
bro for the whole
corra
scene.
Pikmin. Então, se vocês tiverem interesse em correr Pikmin, vocês
that'd be great. Yeah.
podem procurar com a gente aqui no Discord, a gente pode tentar dar uma ajuda, mas não tem, eu acho que ninguém especializado em Pikmin na comunidade. Então, quem sabe vocês aí que conhecem bastante Pikmin, não seja um speedrunner aqui na comunidade, venha oferecer também os joguinhos.
I don't know. They scare all your non-purple Pikmin. They're not usually too relevant for the speedrun, so I didn't expect to have to talk about them, but there they are.
Right.
Temos espaço para
It's
todos
a
os tipos de
5% chance
speedrunners.
that an egg will have metites in it, and they're usually a cause
Toda
of
vez que você
ire
andar
and
por
chaos,
jardim,
which
deve
is
ter pisado
generally
nos
not
1000
wanted in a
Pikmins
speedrun,
sem
but-
perceber. E é por isso
Yeah,
que eu
even
não
though Pikmin
saio
is
de
sort of
casa.
inherently a chaotic
Não,
game,
brincadeira, gente.
they do not help.
Of course.
Alright, so we're entering our first sort of, I would say, meaningful cave. Like, I think this is going to be the first one that actually has, like, variants that I will have to substantially adjust to on, I think it's maybe 1 or 2 floors.
Right. So on the first floor, Jack,
Agora vai pro subnível 1 da caverna, onde vai ter mais coisas na caverna para poder vender. Então ele vai tentar encontrar mais objetos para poder vender.
And the layouts can also, like the cave itself can also be a little different. So it really ratchets up very quickly here as far as variability of different floors goes.
Yeah, exactly. And here you can see that while I'm getting the treasure, another goal I'm
Nossa,
doing
o
is getting
Pikmin
sort
era
of
pra
bug
ser um
bodies
jogo
where
de...
possible.
pra você
and sort of
controlar
work through them.
humanos.
So
Meu
as
Deus, não
we're
tem nada...
waiting on this cross to move through the
Produto
level,
final
I just
bizarro.
have basically dead time that I can use to really
Às vezes eles
efficiently try
são
and gather
pequenos,
objects.
eles são pequenos demais pra nós conseguirmos pisar
Down
nele.
there, and I think we've got
Eu
maybe like
concordo
8
com você, Luan.
Yeah, that's
bogs
really
or
good.
something like that, 8 or 9, which is like pretty good for that floor.
Concordo completamente com você.
Beast 1 is the best layout to have the worst possible.
Imagina a pessoa tentando vender a ideia desse jogo no Nintendo. Tem um negócio de que a gente chama de bananinha da terra,
We
enfim.
should probably talk about, huh? It's quite general, but like one of the results of the variability of sublevels is that some floors will just be quicker than others. So not all sublevels are born equal in terms of speed. But this is not always the end of the world from a speedrunning perspective, because as you say, you can often make up for
Nessa parte tem algumas plantas em que você pode jogar os Pikmin para tentar matar matar essas plantas o mais rápido possível, porque ele pode devorar o Olimar. A perspectiva de speedrun, isso é meio ruim, porque você perde um pouquinho de tempo de desviar. Uma maratona ele quer ir um pouco mais safe.
We'll do that with a combination of treasures and bug bodies. However, the treasure route that we take is not always going to be the same. There is one floor in particular, we'll definitely point it out.
Aquele momento que você vende um disquete e disquete vale dinheiro fora da terra. Pior que aquele disquete tá parecendo muito fantasista. E aí, como ele controla dois personagens, um personagem leva o objeto para a espaçonave para ser vendido, o outro já tá lá fora esperando. Nossa, Black White, cara, que jogo muito bom, Black White, 1 e 2, muito bom. Queria muito jogar o 3. Olha, o disquete vem pra caramba, ó. Column Key Archives, era um jogo da Nintendo aquilo ali.
And the whole game's route has been rooted on the highest value treasures that you can get to as quickly as possible. So that's just a general point about how we think about where we're going. So obviously, Whole of Beast, as it has loads of
Ele falou que a rota planejada é uma rota em cima dos objetos mais caros da tela, para você poder vender esses objetos e faturar o máximo de dinheiro possível. Tem mais objetos durante a tela, mas é mais rápido pegar só esses objetos caros e ir para a próxima.
Oh, I say that. This one's called in chaos. But yeah, so
Meu
you
Deus
need to
do
be
céu,
able to grab
quanta
these
coisa.
to sort of
Quanto
contribute towards the
Pikmin
body
maluco.
total, because overall they're worth about 10. So on
Eles
this floor, you have
venderam
to grab
Game
the 2
Watch
treasures,
agora.
find the tights, and get to the exit in time.
And then,
Without losing, any time.
yeah, and
During
we use the My Tights as well to
É um Game Watch ali que eles venderam.
which really
E agora eles venderam uma carta. Alguém vai ficar sem um as de espada.
What will hopefully be a boss made completely a non-issue. So we'll see here.
Yeah, so I'll need an audio cue for it. So
Yeah,
I think.
E agora ele vai para próximo
You'll find
nível.
out whether I
Explain it
succeeded.
after, yeah.
Yeah, we'll explain it after, but you'll see if I succeeded in about 10 seconds, I think. Okay.
O Final Flow agora dessa caverna. Boa noite, pessoal. Você usa o dinheiro para quê nesse jogo? Então, o objetivo do jogo é o plot desse jogo. O que acontece? A federação que desenvolveu os Pikmin, ou que eles encontram, em que eles encontram os Pikmin, eles está devendo 10.000 estalecas universais. Então, o seu objetivo é vender objetos para a Federação Galáctica que vale dinheiro. Só que a Federação Galáctica nunca viu esses objetos. Então eles dão um valor meio que aleatório para esses certos objetos. Então você vai ver, por exemplo, um Game Watch ou umas espadas que não tem um nome nada a ver. Então o plot desse jogo é você literalmente arrecadar dinheiro para pagar o débito. São 10.000 estalecas e ele tá com 1.600 mais ou menos agora. Por exemplo, eles pegaram agora um metrônomo e eles acham que é um detector. Basicamente isso, o Long.
She can definitely squad wipe, especially in the early days when you're speedrunning this game. If you mess up that trick and you don't get the backup, it's actually quite hard to stop all your Pikmin from dying. Or you have to be really, diligent about it at the very least.
Então, a gente conseguiu 10% do débito agora.
The rest of there will be, unfortunately, treasures that aren't worth collecting for the remainder of the caves.
Yes. Exactly.
Então, só jogando. Nem parece AGDQ, tô só jogando de madrugada, pô. O Alpha Block vai ser na quinta-feira, gente. Um documentário, exatamente. Então agora ele vai pra próxima caverna, onde tem outros objetos. E o motivo dos alienígenas precisar desses itens é que eles vendem esses itens como se fossem objetos para culto. Então aquele as de espadas em um certo planeta vai ser um deus para eles. O Mar recebeu uma casa no vilarejo por um camarada do nome Nosso, depois descobriu que estava endividado. O Bruno conhece bastante do jogo e ele está resumindo para vocês. Aí ele vai vender uma tampa de Coca-Cola agora, se não me engano. Alien Billboard. É um Alien Billboard pra eles. Não, esse é Animal Crossing.
It's a good thing to keep in your brain at all times. God knows I've struggled with sufficient bug body collection over my speedrunning career.
Star Trek, quase isso. Quase isso. Então, por exemplo, aquela tampa de garrafa pra gente é uma... Ele é basicamente uma... Esqueci o nome das coisas que tem no estrada. De anúncio gigante. Eu esqueci a palavra em português, pô.
especially in these floors, just a really good basic fundamentals of like, how do you approach
Não, não é um banner, é outra
go for
coisa.
the far treasures first, get the free bugs, ensure everything's didn't carry, just these really clear fundamentals.
Exactly, and it sounds really simple now, because it's like, well, that one was over there, of course you get that one first, because it's really far away, but then, as Kat says, some of the levels are big, like,
É outdoor, outdoor. Caramba, outdoor, cara. Como eu esqueci a palavra outdoor.
So it's just about making
Aquelas
those
placas de
decisions later on. And I think
propaganda
there'll be some
na
more floors
estrada.
where it'll actually be very interesting to talk about
Tá ao
where I got
vivo,
into certain
Metroid, tá ao
treasures in which
vivo.
order, 'cause that's one of the beauties of the
Outdoor,
game
eu
as
não...
well.
Caramba,
When
gente,
the
vocês...
floors are so complicated,
3 horas da
it's
manhã, não
very
lembro a
rare
palavra
that you'll be able
outdoor
to
mais.
point and say, that is the correct way you should have played this floor. So I think that's one of the things that makes this game quite special. Like, every runner has their own way of doing things.
Yeah, so like I said,
Outdoor pra alien é tipo uma tampinha de garrafa. Então,
generally not a right answer. So what a lot of
quem é de São Paulo nem sabe mais que é outdoor. Eu sou de São Paulo, pô.
So really supportive community in that regard.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll briefly explain these new fellows that have joined our team. These are white Pikmin. They are essentially
Agora eles vão pegar os Pikmin brancos.
Like, they are the fastest Pikmin. They have like digging abilities which access
E esses Pikmin brancos são especializados em cavar. Ele vai utilizar esses Pikmin brancos para poder cavar as coisas.
And also they're just what you're going to want to load treasures with. So this is a good
Não,
example here. We are putting whites on instead of purples because their movement speed is substantially higher. We're talking like, I think whites are almost double purple speed.
More than double purple speed.
More than double purple Pikmin speed. So like, they are going to be the basis for all good play, is making sure that you have whites on treasures that are going to be the slowest back. And making sure that you manage that is like really important.
Ele vai ter a Pikmin e vai ficar perto lá enquanto ele vai vender o rolo de fita adesiva. Na verdade, rodinha de skate é rolo de fita adesiva. E isso chama de textura muito saudável. Textura muito saudável, ou como a gente conhece,
the bread and butter of the Pikmin 2 speedrun.
They're the lifeblood. Yeah. And so that is an example of this kind of treasure we were talking about before. You may have seen that mushroom. I'll go back to it actually because the exit's here. So that treasure is worth 30 Pokos, and getting it would get the cave complete. So that's the cutscene takes 10 seconds, and the cave complete takes 8 seconds. So that costs 18 seconds to get. And as you probably got a flavor for already,
agora ele vai vender uma lanterninha, se não me engano. Não, é uma... Como fala? Eu esqueci o nome. A bateria.
The choice between the two treasures on that floor is obviously very clear. The other one's worth 90. So of course we're going to go for the chapstick there and not that little mushroom.
Yeah, exactly. And I have reminded myself internally to save for a trick that is
I will remind you again.
Thank you, please do. It may seem crazy to those watching,
agora
but the importance of saving here is crazy, because this is
e ele fala que é importante estar seguindo, tentar nesse Final Flow, porque esse boss pode ser muito complicado. Mas como você pode ver, os Pikmin são muito fortes. E aquilo tinha uma luva dentro dele. Por que ele tinha uma luva dentro, ninguém sabe explicar.
That we may end up doing, one of which we will, one of which we may do, that if you use purples in the right way, they're just devastating. Like, the game is not aware of how strong purples are.
Não, ele não tá carregando o corpo do pássaro, ele tá carregando uma luva. Vamos ver o nome que a luva vai ganhar.
Which I guess we'll understand later on. But yeah, I will now save. I'm going to remind myself verbally, so I have no excuse.
Uma luva. O nome da luva é knapsack para 5 pessoas, ou seja, um saco de dormir para 5 pessoas é uma luva. Ai, como adoro o senso desse jogo.
We're going to be abusing this a ton. Basically, Pikmin can only carry to certain waypoints, and so we're going to use it a ton to climb up ledges and get into caves way earlier.
Existe uma quantidade mínima, máxima que ele pode carregar, pode levar? Sim, existe uma quantidade máxima Como você pode ver no canto direito embaixo da tela, mostra a quantidade de Pikmins que ele tem. Então, ele tem 73 Pikmins, que é o máximo que ele pode ter. O do meio a quantidade que ele tem plantado, né, que ele tem vivo. E o da esquerda é a quantidade que ele está levando. Então ele pode ter até 73 Pikmin vivos. Conforme vai avançando os dias, ele vai fazendo os objetivos, vai aumentando o número de Pikmins que ele pode ter.
Might have worked. Yeah, so that's a success, which is
Nice, great job.
Ele fez um skip, tem um skip que você faz por trás da parede e você vai para a próxima área. E você vai para a próxima área do game e ele teria que passar por uma caverna gigantesca, mas ele fez o que ele conseguiu. Teve BR no primeiro dia, ontem, domingo, teve 2 BRs jogando. O Peanut jogou o Hit Clank e o Luiz Miguel jogou o Mega Man X5. Se eu não me engano, tem até quem vai jogar. A lista de BRs vai participar da AGDQ tá aí no chat.
Yeah, so after you get out of bounds using the scale glitch, you can kind of walk along the ledge. Looks pretty precise. It's actually not very precise at all. The ledge is huge. It's an out of bounds ledge. And then we kind of walk over to the area next to this blue onion. And we leap across the void essentially, again knapsacking while we leap.
Agora ele vai criar mais Pikmins, ele tá acho que quase 90 agora. Ele vendeu um dado de 6 lados. E o dado de 6 lados tem o nome de totem de chance, que não está errado. Não, no X3 pra frente ainda não rolou. Rolou apenas o Red Clank do Peanut e Mega Man 5 do Luiz Miguel. O Dodô que vai fazer o Final Fantasy VII, o cara é muito bom.
So a bit of a meme in the Pikmin 2 speedrunning community, like what is a yellow Pikmin? Because we don't see them in this run at all. I guess that's not entirely true.
I've never seen one. Yeah. I've never seen one before. I don't know about you guys.
E agora ele pega uma joaninha gigantesca. Ele vai matar a Joaninha, tadinha da Joaninha. F pra Joana. E agora a gente vai carregar o que estava dentro da Joana. Só não é um totem pra nós. Então, tecnicamente pra mim é um totem, porque eu jogo RPG e mestre RPG. Então, os dados que mandam na verdade, né? Aquela, uma bolinha de gude lá é uma telecinese especializada.
So that both the corpse and the treasure are actually, way closer to our objective, and which makes this level way faster. Sorry,
Agora vai pro level 2.
Because for the most part, they run faster than Pikmin will be able to carry, unless you get like a perfect load of a Pikmin, but even then it's like tight. Right. So it's just way easier.
This is pretty good to point out here. So we talked about how levels can be really, really variable. We haven't really seen one of those yet. This level that Jack is on now is the very first one that we've seen that has huge variance.
Jack que não mata Pikmin.
Terrible layout on this.
Horrible.
It is awful. That's okay, it doesn't matter too much. You're still just going to see him start killing enemies on the way, and then we have to collect the strawberry because it's worth 190 cocos.
E agora tem a planta carnívora, planta enorme, mas ele mata rápido. E agora ele vai pegar o próximo tesouro. É um morango gigante. Bom que como você tem 2 players agora, um volta para ser vendido na aeronave e o outro continua o caminho. Você faz um multitask aí.
Right, so he'll grow some whites and he can also collect some more bug bodies and things. So
Como vocês
again,
podem ver,
one of the
Pikmin não
biggest
gosta
things
de
with
água.
speedrun is maximizing your downtime.
Não, tem uma pessoa jogando
So you'll
só
see
e
lots
são
of that.
dois
That's one thing that's happening right now.
personagens
He
controláveis.
could have killed these enemies like on his way back
Então
before
ele,
he went out
ele
there,
altera
but
entre os
since the
personagens
treasure was going to
controláveis.
take so long to get in there anyway, we can start killing. He can start killing them. He can kill them now.
Very
Sorry.
lucky stun.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't just throw one Pikmin on him.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fun.
It's hard
É
to tell,
planta
honestly,
carnívora
it's a tough
porque
call.
está tentando comer os Pikmin que
So
são
he ate
plantas.
one white off the
Porque os
treasure.
Pikmin têm
Which is
gosto de
actually
carne.
not that bad a loss, for me, in my eyes anyway.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to
Eles
risk
venderam
it
morango
themselves,
agora.
'cause that's called a creeping chrysanthemum, or we call them like mums for short. And they can like knock off treasures, but generally speaking, they're quite easy
Morango
to
de combustão
sort of distract.
instantânea.
If you just throw one Pikmin, they can't eat one Pikmin very well. They've sort of been designed to deal with crowds, but if you just put one Pikmin next to them, they get a bit confused.
Right.
It's a very interesting thing in Pikmin 2. There are a lot of enemies that actually just absolutely short circuit when you just put one Pikmin in front of them. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. You know,
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
it's sort of funny.
Tem
There's gonna be a
inimigos
couple
no
other
Pikmin
enemies
que
in the
eles
game
têm
that work
medo
like
de
that.
Pikmin.
So it's always
Então
fun
se
to
você
see.
colocar um Pikmin na frente
It's like, we
dele,
already trained to deal
ele
with
morre
more
na
enemies
maioria das
than,
vezes.
than we are seeing it.
Como você pode ver agora, os inimigos,
So yeah,
os
mums
boss
are perfect
antigos
example of that,
viram
actually, like a textbook example.
coisas normais.
Alright, so this floor
E aí
pretty
já vira
simple.
uma
We get this
salsicha agora
treasure
que
even though
você
it's only
vira
got a low
um
value here
pássaro.
of 40, because the comparative fastest way of doing this floor, if we didn't get the treasure, would be running over to this gate and knocking it down anyway, which
Então eles
wouldn't
chamaram
actually
de
save that much time
tipo
to
carne
avoid the treasure,
enlatada.
basically. Killing that snag race quick.
Especially because the gate can go down while it's being like carried in, which is really helpful.
Which is great, great multitasking in general. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a very weird floor.
Here you'll see one of the first. Yeah, this is very high. You'll see one of the first enemies that is gonna kind of like fall from the sky.
Agora vai ser um dos primeiros
Those
inimigos
enemies
que
are
podem cair do
essentially
céu
100%
para te
randomly
enfrentar.
placed. The treasures that are just
E
randomly
eles
sitting
são
out on,
eles são RNG
ground
da
of
onde eles vão aparecer
different
na caverna.
sublevels. Those
Então,
do
eles
have some
podem
rhyme or
acontecer a
reason to how
qualquer
they're placed,
momento.
but the enemies are just completely random. So you do have to get a little lucky sometimes, and Jack was able to find this one using the treasure gauge, which was the treasure we picked up back in the first cave.
Aí pegou agora o
I thought I
magnetismo.
killed a white by accident there, but I did not, which is great news.
Congratulations. This is a very odd layout. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really weird. I haven't seen one like
É,
this in a while.
não,
This
os
is what I mean,
Pikmin
this is
não
why I think it's
não
part of
escolheram
the
humano.
benefit
Eles
of the
têm
speedrun. Oh,
os
really?
humanos têm uma
That is
tecnologia
unfortunate
que
popping.
consegue ficar do
I
mesmo
was really
tamanho que os
hoping. In
The
fact, I was
Pikmin are like, oh my
expecting.
gosh, the water's pointing that way. Let's go. Water
That sounds
slide.
awesome. I
Let's do
love
it.
water.
Let's do it.
So this is actually going to be quite annoying to fix, unfortunately. But that's kind of fine. I say that. My heart is in
Imagina
pain.
você ter a
Yeah,
tecnologia
I don't
de
think we
uma
talked
mãe
about what the red
ir
Pikmin
e colher
do.
crianças.
Their main
E
their
pode
main
fazer
shtick
isso
is
para
that
pagar dívidas. Então,
they are immune to fire. That blowhog, that enemy
e agora
that
eles
was
venderam
sitting
uma
on
bolinha de
water,
gude
so
preta.
obviously they're not immune to that, and so they start freaking out a little bit, and eventually they'll
Yeah.
drown.
Agora eles se chamaram
Yeah,
de
which is
telepatia.
not ideal. Even though,
especializada.
spoiler alert, we don't use reds for most of the run after this cave, it's still really important because we use them for growing more blues on the next split. So they can contribute to speed there. So you just never want to lose too many Pikmin. Just because they're your resources at the end of the day. So you need them to
Also,
be
it
happy
hasn't
and
really
healthy.
talked about, but Jack was able to use, in the last level, he was able to use
Então,
the treasure
estamos
gauge,
sendo
the
amigos
thing in the
Pikmin
lower
para que eles
right, to
possam
figure out where
conseguir
the
um mono
buried beetle
individual.
was. Because even though
Sim,
you couldn't see the beetle,
exatamente.
you could see where the gauge was going up.
Infelizmente, nós utilizamos
As
os
you see
Pikmin
right now,
como
Jack is
trabalhadores
not
não
quite so
remunerados.
lucky. Normally you actually have to kill this antenna beetle over here, who also has a treasure, to make the gauge normal. Luckily, Jack knows how to scan spawn points for the Bulborb, so we actually did already find the other treasure, even though the gauge wasn't able to help us.
Yeah.
Agora ele vai
So
matar
there's
aquela
sort of a risk reward of
aquela
like,
coisa ali
I'm
para
gonna
poder
kill this
pegar o
Bulborb on the way.
próximo
It's going
tesouro.
to take some time, but I think the benefit of actually seeing
E
if
já
the treasure's
encontramos o
here
próximo
first
tesouro
is,
e vai me dar os tesouros
I don't
tudo
know,
agora.
better than the sort of moderate time loss.
Yeah, and
I'm
again,
destroying
just to
Bulborb.
point out, so treasures that are in enemies are essentially randomly placed throughout the sublevel. So
E tanto os tesouros quanto os inimigos, eles aparecem aleatoriamente na tela, então ele consegue identificar,
Yeah, I think
pelo
every
menos nessa
Bulborb you
caverna
kill,
aí,
there's like a 1 in
ele
5
consegue
chance to
identificar
kill people.
pelo corredor,
Six,
como
yes.
tá o corredor.
Is it 6? Oh, okay.
There's only
Yeah,
five.
there's 6 of them.
Venderam
Only 5?
mais uma
I'm
bolinha de
just
gude.
curious.
Excellent.
I'll have to consult the notes. That's on me, guys. I'm sorry.
Nomenclature vendida.
It's all good.
Sai um apito da
As you
aranha,
can see, like,
exatamente.
this treasure spawned very far away. So I
O
guess if we were
apito se
being
chama
hypercritical, we'd say this layout wasn't technically speaking very quick.
apito do imperador.
But overall, played fine.
Yeah, the next one we're about to go on to is the one that I mentioned earlier, which is going to determine our Poco routes or our treasure route, what treasures we can get. This is going to be the sub-level where you can get extra treasures sometimes. Other times they're going to be waterlocked, and we've unlocked food, but we don't have it with us, so we ignore them. So basically he's going to run to the exit and hope that one of those treasures shows up. It actually looks like it's quite possible that it might.
It is possible, yeah. So we're looking for an orange bulb from the sky, basically.
Yeah, and
That's
the bulbarbs, by the way, are the
Imagina as mil coisas que você poderia fazer se você encolhesse desse tamanho. Imagina as mil coisas que poderiam te matar se você tivesse desse tamanho.
We still have plenty of Pocos that we can go for throughout the run.
Yeah, there's like loads of ways that you can finish the run. That just saves a lot of time at like the fastest level. Because you can skip slow
Eu
stretches.
penso
Yeah, sorry,
comigo, eu tenho aracnofobia. Morro, eu paraliso quando vejo aranhas. Se eu vejo uma aranha 400 vezes maior que eu infartei.
That purples can slow down the eating animation, and we basically let it eat Pikmin because it allows us to basically kill the pileated snagret in one.
Então, você sacrifica alguns Pikmin agora deixa o pássaro matar alguns Pikmin, porque é mais fácil você matar ele que depois que você começa a devorar alguns.
So that honestly, I can't even understand how much time that saves. Like, I've never seen it run without it.
Morrer qualquer coisa do tamanho de um pelo. Pior que barata, pior que barata.
Entirely. So back when Cap and I started running, we would skip this floor entirely because that quick kill wasn't really found. And so now we have that. This treasure is pretty much always worth it, so we go for it.
Yeah. All right. So this is probably the most complex section in the game, not necessarily to execute, but at least conceptually.
Não, cara, eu tenho aranha comigo, cara. Eu travo num nível que se minha esposa não estiver perto pra matar a barata, eu travei naquele lugar lá. Fiquei parado lá e não me mexo até essa aranha ir embora. Tem um jogo recente chamado Grounded. É um FPS que eu contra uma criança escolhida no jardim pra enfrentar aranhas, mas existe um modo aracnofobia. Assim, aranha em jogos, filmes, essas coisas, eu não tenho problema porque meu cérebro entende que é ficção. Mas eu vejo na vida real isso até eu digo que como contratação uma aplicação aranha como é tratada parada. Daí eu odeio ainda mais. Obrigado, Davi. Agora quando eu for dormir, eu vou estar pensando nisso agora. Muito obrigado, Davi. Te amo, odeio, ok?
And we collect almost everything in the above ground area anyway. We collect 5 out of 7 treasures, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's very efficient.
Yeah, so we collect a ton of stuff. The 2 treasures that are left, you actually can't
que tá num mato onde tinha uma nuvem de teia com 12 aranhas, todo por isso. Meu Deus.
You cannot have yellows the first time you enter here, so not gonna go into.
Eu na vida real tô suado de papo de coisa me responder. Da hora vai ser a galera dos caras descobrindo um novo medo.
A masterful double knapsack to get into BK to go set yourself up for BK early, Jack. That was very good.
Thank you.
It's a 2-part knapsack, as you saw.
Meus amigos, deixa eu lhe contar isso. Eu nasci por causa de aranha. Minha fobia vem da minha mãe. E eu nasci prematuro porque uma aranha apareceu calando minha mãe. Então, é entender, né?
Since he's just growing and waiting for the globe to go in, it might be a good time for donations if we have any.
Yeah.
Of course. We have $100 from your boys, aka Any Smash, that says, Pay off debt, a millennial dream.
Mano, ele
Donating
conseguiu
from
encontrar
your
outra metade do
community
globo,
for
cara.
Jack, who we know and love so
Agora ele vai
much.
vender outra
Good
metade do
luck with
globo.
the run. It's 5 a.m. here in the UK, so if you can finish as fast as possible, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Já tá com
That is
quase
so
4K
excellent.
já.
Yeah, I was about to say I've got work after this as well, so everyone pray for me.
Projeção geográfica.
But yeah, anything for GDQA.
We got time
Sorry,
for
yeah, you can
one more?
continue. Yeah, yeah, go
Awesome.
for it.
We have $20 from Caro Cola that says, I've been watching GDQ for a long time and I'm excited that I finally
E agora o
have the
que é
means
isso?
to
Que eu
donate.
não vi.
Pikmin 2 is a fun game.
Um
and has
ioiô?
many fond
Não, uma
memories for me.
pomada.
Good luck with the run and best wishes to all.
Uma pomada.
Lovely. I'd say like one or two more
Absolutely.
if you're going.
We have $25 from Absolutely Ash that says, Hey Jack, good luck from one of your favorite long and active Pikmin 2 runners. Let's pray for good SH6
Agora os Pikmin
and
poderão
late game.
planejar o ataque à
and
Terra.
Urban,
Exatamente.
make sure Cap doesn't go on a rant about deloading on SCX3, okay? I'm sure the
Lord.
Ele
Pikmin
nem deu a
community
cebola,
will
isso mesmo?
make a group donation later, but I wanted to get one in myself. Cheers!
Oh,
That's so
Brilliant.
sweet,
Thank you.
Ash. Thank you.
called out so brutally. You didn't have to do me.
So you actually
In
just
front
saw
of my friends.
you just saw Jack put his reds back in the onion, the red onion. So we probably won't see those for the rest of the run, barring some disaster.
Agora ele
fingers crossed,
colocou os
very
Pikmin
unlikely.
vermelhos
But
dele
we're not going to see
de
run. We're
volta
not going to see reds again. We're only going to
no
be using
casulo
blues
deles.
for pretty much the entirety
Então
of the run,
provavelmente
which
a
is
gente não vai ver
convenient
mais
because
esses
we have
Pikmin
some mod
vermelhos.
levels and stuff coming up.
Somente os azuis, negros e brancos agora.
Well, we do technically coming up, just not right now.
not in BK, no. Not in Bulblax Kingdom. We do another lure just like in Snagger Hole 1 with
Ih,
this
morreu.
very active boy.
Nossa, saiu bagulho de esmeralda de dentro da joaninha. O que essa joaninha comeu, minha gente?
And if anything, it gave the orange bulb some time to be collected.
Just
So-
some fun math. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna
No,
go
I
some fun
think you're
math
about
for
to
a
say.
second.
Yeah, I think you're about to say exactly what I was
Olha
about to
isso,
say. So go ahead.
um biote gigante, velho.
No, actually,
I was just
gonna
gonna say, I feel quite low on bug bodies right now. So we have sort of internal splits that we have to determine roughly how many bugs we've got and whether we need to start going out of our way a bit more to collect some. And based on my sort of internal calcs, I'd say I'm like maybe 10 or 12, something like that back.
Yeah,
From,
it
like-
doesn't die.
That's exactly
It
what I was
happens,
thinking.
though.
I was thinking 9. Yeah.
Yeah, so so that's something I'll be thinking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna try and let it get in the way too much.
And that
Because
also
you don't want to pigeonhole yourself.
150
I do just
moedas
wanna point
ali,
out, so,
exatamente.
again, we've talked about how different speedrunners can approach things differently, but we all have the exact same number of like bug bodies that Jack needs.
Pikmin estão pegando
in our heads
fogo,
right now,
bicho. Tá
so,
pegando fogo, bicho.
Some things are different, but some things end up being really the same for all of us.
Tá pegando fogo, bicho.
A couple deaths there, unfortunately. We tried to, because you can leave Pikmin in their sort of endangered state for quite a while, and it ends up being okay. But obviously
Actually,
not
now that you're down to 98, that's actually not terribly suboptimal because there's 2 purples back in the ship from the chance totem. So
E
actually,
chegamos mais ou
might
menos
have
na
worked out-
metade da run
might
agora
have
pra
worked out for
vocês,
the
guys.
best there, which is breaking a lot of people's hearts to say that killing Pikmin works out for the best, but it's how the speedrun goes, you know.
yeah,
I'm also
maybe
gonna,
not for the best, but not the worst.
I'm gonna blow your mind, Cap. He actually has 3 purples in the onion right now.
Oh my goodness!
He left one behind earlier, so
I did.
Quick, kill another one.
Heck, might as well.
Pedras de
unfortunately,
lágrimas,
Pikmin end up being
exato.
pretty disposable, aside from whites and purples. So
Agora ele está com
we don't
os
worry too
Pikmin
much
roxos
about
e azuis
a couple
apenas.
deaths here and there.
They will be gone but not forgotten, just remember that. They'll be remembered in the glory of Valhalla or something similar.
Yeah, this
Como
this
vocês
floor
podem
here
ver do lado
has
direito
two-
superior,
has
tem
two,
o detector de
two
itens, né,
enemies that are
de
treasure
tesouro
trove
pra você
again, so they're
poder
usually randomly
vender.
placed.
Então se você tiver, como as
There
cavernas
was
são meio que
some
randomizadas,
punching there, but we're
você
good.
descobre o tesouro
Flip
através
switch
daquele,
shenanigans,
daquela coisinha ali.
there's some-
So to introduce one of my favorite enemies in the game, from a pure fear and also speedrunning perspective, those are
Olá,
adder
Lucas.
beetles.
Bom
They
dia.
use electricity and they link together and they can create huge lines of just electricity across
Qual
sublevels. And Pikmin
ah,
really don't like
Oficial
electricity.
rei?
Like, they don't like fire.
Vai
They
vender
don't
várias
like
outras
water, but they
coisinhas agora.
really don't like electricity. So they will just melt instantly. So you will see
É
in
uma
a lot
moeda
of intermediate
japonesa,
and like
e dá um
even
nome
lower level runs as
de
well, just people
mérito
melting like
desconhecido.
hundreds of Pikmin in in like a second. Actually, wait, I'll wait for those two bodies to get in. So yeah, you can squad wipe really easily.
Yeah, for whatever reason, electricity is the only hazard in this game that kills Pikmin. All the other
E
hazards
eletricidade é a
are
única
just
coisa que pode matar Pikmin
yeah,
realmente
instantly
nesse
kills
jogo.
Pikmin, sorry. Correct.
Então,
All
a
the
única
other
coisa que ele tem
hazards,
que realmente
there's
se
a delay
preocupar
and
é
have
não tomar dano
you can do, like,
elétrico.
a little animation, and like Jack said, there are
Agora,
most of the
porque
Pikmins
tem
here.
uma
In later Pikmin games, they
teia
changed.
elétrica
I don't
embaixo
know
da
why.
terra,
Made it
nunca vou
so terrible
descobrir.
in this one. They were worried that we weren't going to use yellows, but guess what? Joke's on you, Nintendo. We're not using them anyway.
Yellows stink, and I'm not a fan. Oh, two orange bulbs right next to each other. Hopefully, we'll be able to deal with this, but I suspect killing one will wake up the other, which is quite scary. We're back.
One thing that might seem a little
no stun, which is unfortunate. So
Nossa,
Pikmin lost there
quanta
is
coisa na
not
tela.
great, but I think we lost
Ok, conseguiram matar mais uma joaninha ali, pegou mais um tesouro, tem mais uma joaninha.
which is less
Ele
than
tá
ideal,
carregando os
but
joaninhos agora.
overall fine.
Yeah, there's also
Like-
there is a flower depending on the timing of everything, or you can just let it rock. You know, there's a lot of options.
Yeah, I think I'll probably let it rock.
Yeah,
Tesouros.
you gotta do it.
Indeed.
Vai
But
fugir
worst
ali.
case we can see, like the absolute
Isso
worst
é
case, you can
uma
throw
caveira?
bubbles in the cave
Um
after
cânion
this,
humano?
if that was absolutely disastrous.
Meu Deus,
but I
tem
don't
cânion,
think it
gente.
was. I mean, unless it was,
Tô
and I
com
didn't
medo
know it, but
oficialmente do Nintendo.
No,
it
it's all
seemed
good.
okay.
That's what
I
Judgment
will
felt
say-
before, you know. Go on, Urban.
No, I was just gonna say if it was disastrous, then FC1 is your best bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
Alrighty.
I
So
think next up,
Caso
I'm going to
terra
take over
acaso,
Joe's
sim, é verdade.
So I'll pass off maybe to donations stack because we'll have quite a lot of time.
Bem pensado, Luan, não tinha pensado
at
nisso.
the start of the sublevel, Jack kind of went straight toward where treasures
Olho
and
esmeralda
keys were. It
eterno.
might seem a little surprising that he can do that, but on
Faz os
at
5
the start of the
caras de
sublevel,
dinheiro.
there's a very brief cutscene where
Olha o
the captain is
cabeça que
kind
vai
of
vender agora.
dropping in, and so you can see a good chunk of the sublevel, and so a lot of us Pikmin runners will turn the
Fóssil
brightness up on our
colossal.
screens, and that helps us see and make a plan immediately for what we're going to do as a sublevel happens. And that last sublevel is one that we do that very frequently on.
Yeah, so the sort of eagle-eyed among you will notice that the game is a lot brighter on your feed than it would have been when you played it as like a kid, for instance, because we've sort of cranked up the brightness to help with figuring out some parts of caves. But generally, we could figure out wider trends without the need to actually see a lot of stuff as well. So,
Último
mixed bag.
flow agora no 7.
So this is Emperor Bulblax. Don't get too familiar with him.
Ó, o boss.
That was
É,
Emperor
o boss
Bulblax.
meio morreu.
He's,
Esse é o
the
Bulbax
best example of
e
just, like, purples
adeus
melt
Bulbax.
stuff.
Yeah,
Like, they
that is
absolutely melt stuff.
that is the final boss from Pikmin 1, which we need, bombs and 100 red Pikmin.
E
here
aquele
you
era
can do it with,
o
like,
boss
10
final
pressures.
do Pikmin 1,
No joke.
em que a gente ia precisar de
It's kinda
bombas
crazy.
e um monte de
The
outras
reason why
coisas.
that happens,
E no 2 você simplesmente
the Emperor
dizima
Bulblax
ele.
did not get programmed with super armor on the wake up animation. So while he wakes up, you can just hit him with purples, and all of that damage is calculated. Because for whatever reason, unlike other bosses, he doesn't have some sort of super armor upon wake up. So as a result, as all
O que
the damage
acontece é
gets
que,
calculated, you see
diferente
him
de
last
todos
for
os
around
outros bosses do
3
jogo,
or 4
esse é o
seconds
único
before-
boss que quando ele aparece na tela, ele tem um hitbox,
He has a very bad
já
time.
que você pode dar dano nele.
Let's put it that way.
Então enquanto ele ainda está surgindo, você
But
taca
yeah,
o
so
Pikmin
this treasure
exausto nele
here
pra dar
is
dano
really
nele
out of the way,
e
as you
matar
can
ele
probably guess.
antes
But
mesmo
there's a
de
reason for
ele
that. It's
subir
worth
na terra.
250
direito.
pokos. I think it's the second most expensive treasure we get in like the whole run. So we're
Tem
really willing to
gente
go out the way
que
for it.
pode se passar com humanos dentro de uma bacia com
And I
seus
say that's not
fósseis
even that out of the way,
colossais.
really, is it? It's like,
No, it's not too bad.
Sim, isso é verdade.
yeah. But yeah, so we're good on money actually. So we made up that small
E os
deficit
Pikmin nunca
before
questionam ordens,
from
exatamente.
the later levels of Bulblax Kingdom. So that's actually really good.
4-9 for
Puts
1.
my
that's
mind at
pretty great.
ease. That's maybe one Poco higher than our sort of goal, I think.
É por isso que você usa
Okay,
os
so
Pikmin
now
pra
this
tudo.
is going to be crucial data time. We're going to need to figure out how many purples, whites, and blues we have so that we can make educated decisions about whether we need to grow more. And this is only because
Então
of the
agora
result
ele
of that
depende de
minor incident with the
tudo
orange
quanto que
bulbs.
ele tem de azuis, roxos mas nunca em que eu não
But
escuto
yeah, so I
direito,
think any number
para
above
tomar a
21,
decisão
I'm confident carrying
realmente do que ele precisa fazer.
going with all 20. It's a hard call because we need to enter one of the caves in this area with 7 less than that.
Perdeu
So
o
we
sono
enter with
por...
about
Não, que
13,
bom que
and
temos
that's
uma
best case
retransmissão
scenario. And
oficial
having
da
13
AGDQ.
purples is still good. You
Bom
can
dia,
still do it,
Gustavo.
but you have to be a bit more careful, and it can really spiral out of control. So
Peguei o
I'm not
bonde
sure. What do you
andando
think,
e não
team?
tô entendendo
Should I
nada.
show more purples?
Oi, Caio, tudo bem? O que você não está
Yeah.
entendendo?
Okay, well, worst case, we can show it.
Conte pra nós que nós
The good news of
tentaremos
purples dying as well is that we get to
esclarecer
take
aqui
out more
pra
blues, I
ti.
guess, for this split. So that'll speed this up.
Ouviu oficial,
He
pessoal.
gets to, so Jack, we're now going back to the first day, or the first area that we visited. You only need blues to explore the rest of this area, and the first cave we're going to go in here is going to get us some more white Pikmin, which really speed things up. Can help speed things up, so we want them next. So we're going to see him do that in this first cave here. And the water wall here,
Sim, é o N% ou desenvolve fácil. O N% do Pikmin 2 é chamado de AGDQ.
To get whites as fast as possible. Because we've done, well, not as fast as humanly possible technically, but basically
Tá
very
entendendo
quickly
nada do jogo? É normal.
So we got blues because we need them to knock down this gate.
Jogo
And
pouco
then
complicado
the first way we
mesmo
go
de
after knocking
entender.
down this gate is a cave in which we get more whites. So that's sort of the basic
Vocês me dão licença por alguns minutos, gente, porque tem uma barata voadora aqui. Momento.
We skipped the first treasure that you're supposed to get in this area on the tutorial day. However, the first treasure that you collect in the above ground section of this area will automatically end the day. So we are now going to try to get a treasure as close to the ship as possible while doing other things so that we can end the day immediately and waste as little time as possible. Because if we were to go back to the normal tutorial treasure, it's going to cost, an extra 20 or 30 seconds to walk over there and stuff.
If not more. Like, it's brutal. The fact that the day ends is like, I think, one of the biggest routing challenges of this game. And we've done a lot of investigating to try and figure out if there's a way.
A barata foi purgada, gente. Deu smite ali na barata. Voltei.
And leave after you get your first treasure.
Yeah, so we talked about how sometimes you can do a pause exit.
Perdemos ele, chat. Como assim, gente? É só uma barata que voa. Olha, eu perdi um HP aqui porque ela deu um rasante em mim. Por isso que eu vi ela. Ela me deu um rasante na cabeça, deu um tapa nela, fui pegar o chinelo e matei. Solei a barata. Fui gankado pelo Kazik. É uma pena que eu tinha Zônia.
Most of the time we can see treasures from a distance, but the buried treasures obviously we cannot. So Jack is going to be using the treasure gauge for the most part to figure out where this treasure is located. I think it's pretty close to him here.
Se o Yasu fala em frente o vento, eu falei em frente o chinelo.
Yeah, you can maybe get both in this one.
This here is a good example of why purples are really good to have in quite a high number. Outside of just like needing them.
Ela é evoluída.
Like, they're so much more efficient at absolutely melting enemies if you have like a certain critical mass, if you want to think about it that way. So, because you can just absolutely mash throws. So here we're just putting more whites on that treasure so that it moves, generally speaking, a bit quicker. Not a huge thing, but just good practice, I think, to be in, generally speaking. Okay, but otherwise, fine SCX1.
Good body collection too.
Yeah.
Deu flash with Soleil, exatamente.
Bobble in the starting area.
Ah, meu Deus.
Somewhere else. Very nice.
Eu já tô até em alerta pra ver se tem outra barata, gente.
Casual players and people who watch Pikmin speedruns pretty nervous because there are lots of bombs and bombs can be
Kha'Zix que o Popolo tem que morrer mesmo, concordo. Enfim, voltaremos pro Pikmin. Subnível 2.
Runs toward one of them and hits it, it will eventually blow up and that can take out a lot of Pikmin.
Esse subnível 2 eu gosto dele, porque normalmente ele parece que você tá andando numa chapa, ou no aterramento da casa, então é tipo totalmente feito de ferrugem.
And they are an absolute menace. So they throw bombs in like really unfavorable ways, and even though they're
Por dessas
overall
bombas
slow,
que
their
caem do nada,
ability to just decimate an
exatamente.
army it can't be understated. So yeah, they are brutal. But if you keep them off camera, they don't really get up to their shenanigans as much. So that's actually quite a big concept that we haven't spoken about before now. The way the game appreciates that enemies are there is if they're on camera. So like this guy here, he's on camera, so he'll get up to his antics, right?
Gente do
But if
céu.
I take him off screen,
Pera aí,
you no
chat,
longer hear his
que
game sound.
apareceu a
But if the game
segunda.
doesn't
Eu
know he's
encontrei a
there,
segunda voadora.
it's
Volto
mainly
já.
to save RAM, like, or just like save memory usage, I think was the idea. And a second way that enemies can load as well is like if you imagine Pikmin, like each individual Pikmin has like a little bubble behind it, or a bubble around it, I guess, that will load enemies in its area. So just because an enemy's off screen, you can't completely forget about it, because your Pikmin may walk past and then trigger some nightmare shenanigans. So this is Cap's favorite level?
Yeah, Cap, do you want to talk about this? You've kind of labbed this out a lot. This is one of the most complex levels that we're going to face in this run. So go ahead.
Yeah, so SCX3 is pretty complicated just because it can spawn a record number of rooms, you know, up anywhere between 5 to 6 rooms, which is really complicated, and it sort of just has a very
Ok,
wide
voltei.
distribution
Solei a
of possible
segunda barata.
treasures. So what Jack is doing right now is he's getting
Eu tô no
the
interior,
gear,
gente,
which
na
is
casa da
what
minha
slows down
sogra.
his first, which is really
Tem
good.
mata aqui perto, é normal ter barata.
And then
Então a gente
he's
tá de
gonna
boa.
try to fight a buried beetle. The buried beetle is frustrating because
Solei 2 e
you actually
continuamos
can't
aqui,
get
bora.
stuns from purple pounds, and so he's basically gonna try to sort of set up the fight to, you know,
Mata,
work out for
mata,
him, but
mata.
it is a more dangerous
Então,
fight
você
than
tem que tacar os
most other
Pikmins lá em
beetle
cima
fights,
pra eles
because,
pra
he
matar
is just
aquele
unrelenting
inseto
in
ali.
firing the boulders.
Mas aquele inseto ele tem um problema que ele pode.
Oh, I had someone off fire. Sorry, go on.
Que ele pode dar dano elétrico e matar o seu. E matar outra coisa. E matar os teus Pikmin. E ele deu pra uma mola agora.
Yeah, and one of the, just to point out, one of the big reasons for that is this floor has 3 treasures on it. So it's a lot less cut and
Tem
dry.
3 tesouros nessa tela aí que ele vai encontrar. Como ele perdeu um tesouro no começo da tela, ele teve que pegar essa engrenagem. Por isso que foi uma coisa baixa. Agora ele pegou a engrenagem, pegou o parafuso e faltou só a porca agora.
That's one of the biggest flavor differences you'll get between runners. So like Cap, I would probably say is better than me at this floor.
Ó a molinha aí, ó.
Just has it more thorough, I don't know, like
Ele vender a mola agora, ele completou 2 tesouros.
So like he could potentially have played this better than me or differently.
A porca-aranha.
Like he might have gone for the spring first, something like that.
White's on gear first, and then the gear gets back and use those whites to get the spring. But it's all good.
Exactly.
You're doing great. No,
I'm doing great. Thank you. He is the sage of that level. So honestly, that's completely fair.
Yeah. So Jack on this floor is going to grow another 15 whites. Again, super useful. Fastest Pikmin. We want at least 30 is really the minimum we want moving forward. Normally we'll have 35 though.
Yeah.
Some people are wondering.
I think Jack is doing this. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say some people might be wondering, like, you're not collecting any treasures here. Is this really worth it? The answer is yes. Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, that's the answer.
Você tem o castelo submergido? Eu acho que não. Eu acho que ele não faz o castelo submergido nessa rota.
Super torqued out. Doing that now is so much better and puts you in a really good place for success for late game. And so I think even in top level world record speedruns, I mean, it's just something that you have to do. You have to put yourself in a position to succeed.
It's like your due diligence. You should think about it like doing this correctly will allow you to play your best everywhere else. And like think about it this way, we don't collect our first treasure until maybe 8.5 minutes in. So we sit at literally 0 for 8.5 minutes. And that's all just about getting yourself ready for like the chaos ahead. So this sub-level is
Sim,
very,
todo
very
carro
complicated, so I'll
no
pass off to
embaixo da casa, pô.
briefly explain what I'm doing, but the stakes are high.
Yeah,
Ele tá dentro de carro embaixo d'água. Essa tela tem aranha, tem bomba, tem tudo, cara. Tudo que você não quer tem nessa tela.
The other thing here, you see the little spider things moving around. Those are dweebles. They will grab treasures, and they can actually run off edges carrying treasures that have Pikmin attached to them, and that'll kill a bunch of Pikmin. There are also the greening Dirigibugs that Jack was talking about earlier that spit out bombs. So just lots and lots of stuff to do here. Jack actually got a pretty easy to manage layout. There are also poison geysers, which Pikmin can't move through, except for whites.
Então, o ruim dessa tela é que tem muito inimigo, tem gato, tem... É um labirinto do caramba e é randomizado onde pode aparecer os tesouros. É uma das telas mais chatas de se passar, tanto no speedrun quanto no casual. Ele vendeu, acho que um negócio de micro-ondas agora. Não tenho medo de imaginar esse sucesso do game, eu também tenho.
But yeah, I think no disasters here. They exit in sort of a weird location, as you can tell here. The game spawned a really big corridor and was like.
We would call this.
Quase 6k já de grana.
On some sub-levels.
E agora eles venderam o último tesouro. Que é outra porca.
Which in this case, thankfully, we saw it early enough, so it worked out.
The exit. So I was just gonna say, if you pause, the exit is one of the few things that will actually show up on your pause menu, which shows a map of your screen. So it'll show your Pikmin locations and your Captain locations, as well as.
Se você pausar o jogo, ele te dá meio que um mapa, mas perde tempo por causa que o menu pode dar um bug muito gigante. Então ele meio que tá jogando nas cegas, porque ele meio que decorou como que é os mapas, como que pode vir os mapas. E esse inimigo, ele taca míssil, como vocês podem ver. Que tipo de inseto é esse que está no meio das coisas enferrujadas que podem jogar bomba em você? Esse bicho fica revivendo?
So the benefit is it's safer, the cost is I had to spend time killing it, which ideally I wanted to spend that time running out to these treasures as soon as possible.
Que é isso que ele vendeu? Não consegui identificar. Uma CPU pra eles, mas tudo bem.
Yeah, the enemy game design, or the enemy design in this game is actually kind of hilarious. And I think it's part of the charm that people do love about this game.
Oh, definitely. And all the product placement.
Oh, of course, all capitalism alive and well in Pikmin. Heck yeah. Love a bit of capitalism.
Acho que ele pegou todos os tesouros já desse subnível.
Very true. It's just kind of cute. Charming, indeed. Oh, they're going this way. That's an interesting one.
I think the game it must enjoy it. So some fun little direction. So that's cute.
So the game is decided right as opposed to left.
Yeah.
Why? Who knows?
Uma fita vermelha agora. Adesivo furioso.
We'll kind of know the path that a treasure is going to take on its way back. But it's obviously not shown on the screen anywhere. There are just waypoints put throughout the map, and Pikmin travel from waypoint to waypoint depending on what waypoints have been discovered. So sometimes it can really throw you for a surprise there. And we all were thinking that the treasures would go around the other path, but they went around that kind of longer path.
Yeah, so if I had known in my infinite wisdom that it was going to go that way, I may not have killed the Dirigibug.
Jack, save.
I will save. Thank you for the reminder, Urban.
Yes.
So,
ele tá com medo, ele deu um save ali, porque ele tá com muito medo que o negócio mate ele.
Because these purples, we would have sufficient amount, like numbers, to feel safe in all our adventures, but right now we're slightly short, to the point where, like, it could interrupt sub-levels, so this is completely fine to do in runs overall, like...
O que não é completamente compreensível que ele fez isso na run.
Obviously, that's sort of what
ele não quer perder a run.
The optimal route will do that.
I was just gonna say, think of purple Pikmin as the save. Think of purple Pikmin as the weighted blanket of Pikmin 2.
The weighted blanket. That's very very true. And thank you for that very tasteful save reminder. That actually came in clutch. I think I felt my muscle memory kicking in.
Yeah,
which is honestly
so the
fantastic.
reason Jack
Pode
needs
vai
to save here
pro,
is because, like we
pro
said,
vale,
the first treasure you collect
onde ele já
in
tem
this above ground
60%
area
do
is
débito
going to
dele
end today.
coletado.
And he's trying to set up the can. The treasure name is
E
the
agora ele tá
Scrap. He's trying
tentando
to set that up as
secar
close as possible. So if that happens
os
to go
bichinhos
in,
com
it's
o
gonna
mais
end the
rápido
day and kill the
possível,
run, kill
esquipando
any
certas
loose
telas
Pikmin
para
that
poder
on the
invocar
map.
Pikmin
It's
específicos.
not a good time.
Yeah.
So that is why he saved, just in case.
That would be hard to recover from. Let's put it that. Even in like a marathon context, I think resetting there is faster than just letting that fly. Like catastrophic damages to the squad would occur. So yeah. It's just
basically here Jack is going to be setting up the cleanup for the rest of this above ground area. So we're going to collect as the good above ground.
Agora ele vai fazer a ponte porque ele precisa fazer
So you'll
cleanup
see
com as
him
pontes.
partway move this bear statue over here, and you'll see on the next split where that's going to be and how it's in a much better spot than all the way up here, because you have to walk all the way around to get up to it right now.
nice. So the reason this can be tricky is in large part because of that throw there. Despite
Isso
the fact
pode
that
ser
purples
meio
went up
tricky,
without too
mas
much fuss there,
pode dar um
sometimes
problema
it
muito
can be
grande
really
quando ele faz
fiddly,
isso.
and they'll slide down the
O
slope, and
tempo
then you're
estimado
gonna
de
have to
run
retry to
é
bring the
1 hora
purples
e
up,
55
and you get
minutos.
stuck
A
in
gente
this
já
whole
passou mais da metade da
of
run,
like you
falta
just get trapped there,
mais de 60% da
wasting
run na
time, and
verdade.
while that's happening, the scrap is heading towards the ship, and it will kill your run. It doesn't care about the fact you haven't put purples on there yet, and you're a bit
Tem
uncomfortable.
um
It will
problema
kill your
nessa
run.
tela aí que pode acabar com a sua
I
run,
think pretty much
se
every
você não
top
tiver
level
prestando
runner has got an
atenção.
experience of like at least a decent run dying to this.
E
100%.
todos os runners do mesmo teve
Getting
uma run já que
scrapped
foi
was
morta
right
por
to
conta disso.
Getting scrapped.
Indeed.
Luckily, this has gone off without a hitch.
Yeah, so we're fine.
Frontier
in
Cavern
large
here,
part due to that throw going well.
Frontier Cavern here, the cave that Jack just entered, I would say is the hardest and most complex cave in the run overall. It's pretty close with
E a caverna mais complexa agora da run agora,
but it's
toda a run,
quite difficult to do quickly, so I expect
ela é meio complicado de se fazer ela
That's actually a really
rápida.
interesting point. So I think keeping your army alive, or like making sure that you don't have any disasters, and going really fast, I think are almost different skills. One is essential, and you need to do it all the time for
Bom dia,
obvious
Pedro.
reasons. If
Bom
you have
dia,
all your
bom
Pikmin
dia.
die, that's not very conducive to
Oi, oi, oi.
finishing the speed game. But like the other one is a completely separate skill. Like you'll find new runners often say when they're learning the game, like, well, I haven't had to reset this time, but this SCX took like 5 minutes longer than, I don't know, the person ahead of me on the leaderboards or something similar like that. And it's a completely different skill. And I think it's why this game has so much depth. Just understanding how to really maximize that speed.
I've run several speed games in my time. I'm ashamed to admit it. I haven't just ran Pikmin 2 in my time, but I think the execution ceiling in Pikmin 2 is still just unbelievably mind-boggling.
A dificuldade desse jogo é pouco extrema pelo que eles estão falando ali. Então é meio complicado você conseguir fazer uma run ideal logo de cara. Por isso que a comunidade é muito boa, porque eles conseguem se ajudar bastante.
He basically created a practice hack for this game, which will generate sub-levels at any point in the
Tem uma
game.
pessoa que conseguiu criar um hack pro jogo que ajuda pra caramba para praticar o jogo. E isso ajudou bastante a acelerar a competitividade da própria galera.
This floor quite stressful. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, having a supportive community also really helps because we all, like I said, like we've all said before, really want each other to do well, and so we share ideas a lot. No one ever holds on to strategies or anything like that.
E aí a comunidade, eles se juntam toda vez para poder dar novas estratégias.
Exactly. That's why the most exciting thing I mean, it's true in some degree for the other game, but it's definitely true for this, just due to its nature.
Esse jogo é bem punitivo mesmo, bem bonito. Ó, o presente. E aí, Yuri, bom dia, tudo bem? Não aconteceu nada demais não, tá tudo de boa.
It's something we've talked about a few times, but there is a bit of a hierarchy when it comes to enemies and how you want to treat them. So obviously the best case scenario is that you can completely ignore them or unload them off screen, deload them, because that is going to take no time. The other thing you can do is distract them with a captain or a single Pikmin. That's going to take a small amount of time. And then the least
Tem certos inimigos que você
desirable thing is
utiliza
going
os
to be
Pikmin
killing
pra
enemies,
poder
which is going to
distrair o
take
inimigo
a lot of time.
Yeah,
e
especially
pra
killing
não
them
perder
before you've lost inventories. I think
o
that is
tempo.
like worst case. That's where you're really gonna feel time loss on splits.
Is it back there?
So yeah, this is a kind of cool layout actually. I don't know how I feel about this. Because all three treasures are in different areas. So the fact that I split up earlier here is actually not good. I probably could have done this later.
Só porque ele deu um
If I
split
think I
antes
would've
é meio
split
ruim.
myself, and this will probably have results against the fastest
Não, eu acho que
time
não
for
tem
this
só
floor.
você não, Yuri, que o pessoal já está meio
We persist.
cansado aqui. Porque
Nevertheless,
já
we have
é
to-
4 horas da manhã, a
The
gente
good
tá
news
aqui
is I guess we get the
já
this,
desde
enemy
ontem às
here's called Bulby.
1h30 da
One of the
tarde,
scariest
mais ou
in the
menos,
game.
a
You
transmissão.
can absolutely just
Então tá um
ravage
pouquinho
Pikmin.
cansado todo
So,
mundo, mas também
glad to get him
seja
out of the way
bem-vindo
early.
à retransmissão oficial
One of the reasons this is
da
another
Also
very
Games do ano
complex
Quick League
floor, and again, one of the
2021.
reasons this one is complex is there's 3 treasures, and one of those treasures is also buried, so we really don't know where it is.
Tem o pessoal e vários
For
lurks,
100%
exatamente.
sure until we find it, until the treasure page tells us that it's there.
Yeah, like I can have my best inkling in the world, and I could logically ascertain it based on the fact that we understand how, for those who caught the interview before this run started, we now understand how the game generates
O
levels,
pessoal,
like, the
o
rules of
pessoal tá
playing
aí,
are.
gente.
I
Só
don't
que tá
think we'll
aí.
go into it too much.
They
I
are
think just for ease.
very complex.
Yeah, just for everyone's sanity, because it is the difference between like absolutely perfect play and just really good play is knowing how
É
the game is
difícil
generated
fazer
levels, and it takes a very long time.
play
Sort of get
perfeito
sense for it. And
nesse
even I don't understand it,
jogo.
so J-Hawk would chastise me for it
Sempre
various
tem
points
alguma
in
coisinha
runs
que
I'm
meio que
doing.
atrapalha a sua
But
pace.
yeah, whereas invisible treasures, you can work it out, but yeah, you'll only know for certain when you get close, for the most part. Right. But yeah, I think otherwise no disasters on this floor, and with the game plan I went with, I didn't execute it badly. So that's
Ele,
sort of
ele,
another good
ele
mantra
tinha um
in
plano para
Pikmin.
executar
If
ali
you have a
e
game
ele
plan, it's
não
better to
achou
stick
que foi
with it
ruim
and make sure you
enquanto na
play that
execução
game
dele.
plan correctly, as opposed to trying to confuse
Se você
yourself and be
tiver
like, oh, I should be doing
não
this,
tiver
and
um
like
plano bom,
scrambling
você
over yourself.
pode acabar meio que se ferrando enquanto faz a run.
Because that time you spend scrambling is time you could spend grabbing treasures.
Right. The next floor we're gonna see here, in my opinion, is the most sadistic floor in the entire in this entire speedrun.
Agora a tela mais sádica da run, na opinião deles.
That little blue guy, called a careening snitch bug? No.
Ooh,
bumbling snitch bug. Bumbling snitch bug.
So this
Tem
Yeah,
bug,
this guy.
insetinho que pode fugir de tudo isso daí.
And if he grabs your active captain, then all of your Pikmin
Quem
will
tá aqui, quem não tá aqui
automatically
tá
be dismissed.
no tapo.
But this
Exatamente.
floor has a ton of electricity, and Pikmin that are dismissed will run toward whatever enemy or hitbox is closest to them, which a lot of times on this floor is electricity. And so then you have
O problema dessa tela é a eletricidade, que é aquilo que pode. A única coisa que pode matar o Pikmin completamente na eletricidade. O que vai ter na tela? Eletricidade. Óbvio.
Really mean to its players in like the best possible ways, which from a speedrun perspective is great, especially because this layout I didn't even have to deal with it, which is fantastic. That does sometimes just happen. So you know what? I don't even have any skill for this one. The game plays itself, etc, etc. But yeah, it's a very tricky floor, and I think I knew
É
the
uma
killer.
tela bem complicadinha essa daí que eles estão falando.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Pelo que eles estão falando.
I have at least 3 or 4 emotes that originate on that floor.
Very true.
None of them are good. So there you go.
Yeah, they are all bad news. So these enemies are called Mamutas, and there are 2 of them. So these guys can't kill Pikmin, so they're not too scary from
Esses
a
bichos não
gun
podem
perspective,
matar os
but
Pikmin,
they can bury your
então eles
Pikmin.
vão utilizar isso ao favor
And
deles.
as things are now, digging up lots of Pikmin at once is an inherently very slow process. So the cost of not killing these guys correctly
Então,
is that you have
como
to pull
ele
up, like,
ele vai fazer um processo que é um pouquinho demorado,
God, that would actually be a
ele
very
não
bad
gosta
case,
muito
but
de
like 40
fazer,
Pikmin or
mas
something
é o
around,
suficiente
and
para
that is
conseguir
hemorrhage
passar a tela,
I mean,
que é o que importa.
casually it's nice, it's gardening, but for speedrunning, Mamutas
Casualmente
can be
é legal.
very frustrating, and can actually, they're one of the most benign enemies in the game that can just like smash pace. if you
Yeah,
mess
they
them up.
absolutely, they nom nom nom. All your pays, they just swallow it up as theirs. Like gardening, a great hobby, but I don't think it's conducive with speedrunning, as you say.
Grind it into the ground.
Yeah, it's hard to understate how painful that is as well.
Yeah. So
Like,
this,
oh man.
the floor Jack is on now, is
Eles
pretty
estão falando
interesting.
que é
It's
meio,
one of the
é
few
meio,
floors that
dá pra
we
entender
just
o quanto
completely
isso
walk
pode
through
ser
the scope. We don't do
frustrante
a
na
single thing
run.
on this floor, and it's not the last floor that we visit in the cave either.
Esse jogo é muito
Pretty unique
louco.
floor as far as that goes, but there are
Sim, ele é
treasures normally that
totalmente
are
maluco
across water,
esse jogo.
and blue Pikmin move really slowly, and there are a ton of enemies, so they're just not worth going for.
So
Agora,
here, FC7 is a very important one, or FC Frontier Cabin 7.
esse flow é
Quite
muito
a hard
importante para
sublevel
essa
in
run,
terms of like figuring out where the treasures
porque
are before.
pode
This is that
spawnar
skill we're
os
talking about
tesouros
earlier,
mais
of like
caros do
understanding
jogo.
how to make it run
Esse é um
gameplay
dos
based on
poucos que é
what you can see,
totalmente
because one of the
random os
treasures is
tesouros que
buried,
pode vir.
and you can see them
E
working
tem
on
um
it now,
tesouro aí que se
which is really
spawnar,
good news,
ele
but
ganha
does mean that this
muito
boulder
tempo.
I thought I may be able to leave, I now have to deal with. But while they're digging that up, I can deal with this safely and get the bodies. And then,
E aí ele tá fazendo isso save porque ele vai pegar o corpo dos insetos para vender, para tentar fazer o máximo de dinheiro possível, já que tem bastante insetos nessa tela.
One thing that didn't really come into play on this layout this time, but can come into play a lot of times on this sub-level. You can use the information of where a treasure is not to really help determine where a treasure might be. So if you know a treasure is not in one of its possible spawn points,
Olha, porque nem dá pra saber o progresso do runner no jogo. Exatamente. Ele tá com 7 e 100 mais ou menos agora. Então 70% do... Ele já fez mais de 70% já da run dele. Você sabe pelo total de valor que ele tem. Fiz de 10 mil e tá com 7 mil.
One of the rules of that sort of algorithm we knew, the score for this room, it's sort of the value every room is given for placing treasures is hard. So it basically becomes really unlikely that the second treasure is going to be in that room.
Ele falou que com os dados que eles têm, eles descobriram mais ou menos onde que os tesouros podem spawnar. Então, se já tiver um tesouro naquela tela, é muito difícil que vai spawnar outro tesouro na mesma tela. Não na mesma tela, mesmo, não uma salinha, mesmo quarto, né, que eles estão. Então, é muito difícil spawnar 2 tesouros no mesmo local. Uma lata que está com parece uma face.
Absolutely, no worries. We have $15 from Oltazeta that says, "Good luck on the run, Jack. Shoutouts to the rest of the Pikmin speedrunners."
Agora ele tá quase 8K já. Se eu não me engano, agora é o último castelo que ele vai, o último buraco que ele vai entrar agora.
So excited to see Pikmin 2, my favorite of the trilogy, at AGDQ. I love that Pikmin 1 and 3 have had multiple showings.
Bom dia, Luiz Vitório, bem-vindo. Bem-vindo à nossa transmissão oficial da S1 Games on Quickly, totalmente em português brasileiro pra vocês. Mentira, totalmente em português, às vezes tem gringo também.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. You want another one?
Yes,
Absolutely,
please. Yeah,
yeah.
I think like maybe even like 3 or 4 at this point. This is all very self-explanatory.
No problem. We have $15 from Super Bunny that says, "First time I'm able to donate a little something to a cause that touches my heart. As like many others, cancer has affected my family and friends. The Pikmin series has been a part
Oficial, pô.
of my life since I was a
Não é
kid.
rerun, é ao vivo. Tá acontecendo no exato momento agora. É uma retransmissão da gringa.
Hey, that's nothing compared to a speedrunner. Yeah.
Eu esqueci o comando, me desculpe.
That's a good start though.
E aí, Laporini, bom dia.
I used to speedrun the first 20% depth of Pikmin 2 as a kid. Not anymore because I was too scared of the spiders later on in Pikmin. It makes me quite happy to see here now. Hopefully also destroying all the spiders. Good luck, Drez.
Oh, there'll be spider destruction.
Ao vivo, eu não lembro qual que é. Depois eu localizo. Como assim, retransmissão? Está acontecendo o evento no canal Awesome Games, né, AGDQ, e nós temos autorização para fazer a retransmissão. Ou seja, nós pegamos o vídeo original, colocamos para vocês com comentários em português ao vivo. Então, o que vocês estão assistindo na tela aí no meio está acontecendo ao vivo no canal gringo.
competitive this
Enquanto
speed
estão...
game is, I have to bring up the crazy speedrun statistic that in the year 2020,
socorro.
the entire top 5 of Pikmin 2 Payoff Debt all held world record at one point last year, ending with Jack Traz.
Obrigado,
I
Laporinho.
mentioned it in the
Eu não
interview,
lembrava
but
como
it's
fazer
like
os
insane how
comandos.
competitive this game has been this year. Like the top level's been pushed further than I think any of us really expected.
So, you know, it's very, you know, there's always people who are, you know, active and tight-knit, and it's a great community in that sense too. You know, it's a very competitive, active game even right now, so.
É isso aí, como tá escrito aí, são 24 horas sem parar, desde esse domingo até o próximo domingo, contando com mais de 150 jogos. Vai ter muita coisa.
So I think I'll be able to get that in just in terms of extra abilities in the coming levels. So I think that would be the play. If there were more Pokos that I was behind here, there's an optional treasure that we'll run into very soon here that is worth 40. So that's like
Hoje não, hoje não.
Or a band-aid for a gory injury. You never want to get it in a run. Let's put it that way. Like only use if absolutely necessary.
Something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of the smaller above ground
Sinto muito, pessoal, que se alguém salvou, me avisa.
Based on the treasures that you got on SH6, so, Sagratol 6, that one that we talked about was very variable before. Since he didn't get anything, he's going to just be getting pretty much everything.
Olha, ele vai utilizar tudo que ele aprendeu até agora para fazer a última parte.
That isn't completely awful in terms of the speedrunning context. I mean, that's fine. Those runs like that are completely acceptable, like from a high level perspective. Even though the fastest way is technically skipping a couple of the slightly slower treasures, it's still overall very quick.
You know, there are many permutations. I think it's actually apropos that I think what Jack is doing right now, I think this permutation is probably one of the most common. Right, where,
ok, não tinha nenhum tesouro nessa fase, então ele vai pro próximo subnível. Vai tentar pegar um tesouro no subnível 2. Tem algumas coisas meio estranhas que podem acontecer nesse subnível 2.
Yeah, there have been some crazy treasure choices and runs that have happened historically. Like, it's hard to... yeah, no, it's crazy.
Então provavelmente não vai aparecer os tesouros que ele queria, mas é um pouco difícil aparecer mesmo. Mas eles estão... Ele tá preparando um fresh backup para tentar pegar o máximo de dinheiro possível na tela.
Yeah, let's shout out the other top 5 runner too, who is IID.
Bom, ele já tá com mais de 8k já. Eu tava pensando assim, que bom que não peguei nenhum jogo pra comentar, porque meu PC simplesmente morreu. Eita, pega lá, Porinho. F pro seu PC.
Yeah, he's really come into our scene like a lot more.
Foi bem ruim mesmo na tela, sim, foi ruim.
The greatest things like we could have asked for.
Já F5 aí que já voltou.
You know, so Jack sort of had to rescue them from the Dweevils, which of course is very stressful.
And especially because they can move treasures with Pikmin on them over hazards. So I think that's something that floor really shows. Like, Dweevils can set your Pikmin on fire by proxy. So it's pretty sadistic, but I think that's overall tolerable.
Bom dia, chiteiro.
Yeah, one small thing I want to mention about the procedural generation that we've been talking a little bit about throughout this run. The number of gates that show up on floors. Gates are the lattice things that take.
Voltou, gente, voltou. Voltamos aí. O chiteiro vai aparecer e caiu. Brincadeira, chiteiro.
So if you know where the gates are, then you're going to know whether or not there are gates in front of the treasure, even if you can't see that treasure. So like on this floor, for instance,
tá tentando localizar os tesouros. Os tesouros estão meio escondidos na fase.
And so once you know where those two are,
O homem que nunca dorme, concordo.
And that's becomes a pretty big thing in a lot of the speedruns.
Which is why I've seen there are two gates here, so I'm just dealing the rest of my Pikmin on
Voltou, Daniel.
And then getting these two treasures. Because I know I can do the gate in front of the exit last, because that'll be the last thing I do. So there's no rush. I have more time to sort of get it done. I say no rush, but we've rushed the parts that need to be rushed now.
Será que meu PC levou do Sonic junto? Não, fala isso não, Lapurini. Eu sei que tá bem, tamo bem.
That's exactly it.
Is what you're doing. You're enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, the thing
Okay.
that Jack mentions about the exit as well is a lot has a lot to do with the forward thinking that we have to do as Pikmin runners, because things are so
Ok, vai
variable
pro
and
próximo subnível.
we've got to plan.
Enquanto isso ele vendeu uma lata de... provavelmente está vencida.
Yeah. So a sign that, although it may not have been the perfect way to play the floor, the sign that the game
Provavelmente está vencida essa lata, gente. Não
the gate
vendam
was
produtos
destroyed
vencidos,
pretty
por
much
favor.
at the same time the last treasure went into the ship. That's
Ele está
generally
com
quite a
8
good
KI
metric.
300 mais ou menos
gamble
agora.
for it, or what do you think? So here, this floor we don't get any treasures, so we can just absolutely hemorrhage time destroying gates trying to get to the exit. But this layout actually isn't so
Essa
bad.
tela
And in
quase
fact,
não,
this treasure
quase
here,
nunca
time
spawna tesouro.
is
Então o
quite
que ele
good.
tem que
And I
fazer é
usually get
usar o
it.
Pikmin para
You
destruir
were
todos
really
os pontos o mais rápido possível.
You had
Yeah,
like 50 bodies. I wouldn't. Yeah.
And the fact there's no gate on here. So for instance, if there was a gate in front of the exit here, it may be worth it because I know I'd have to wait for the gate to come down anyway. It may have been worth it to collect time capsule, which was over there before, because in the time that's moving back to the starting area, that gate's coming down. So that's like using your
Na
time.
cidadela das aranhas agora, a última tela. Vamos para o flow. E tem um boss aranha gigante agora.
The person who hated spiders, you're about to see that purples crush spiders.
Yeah. So
Os roxos
point.
toem aranhas. Então agora tem uma aranha gigante que é o boss.
Oh yeah, fast BLL. Never mind.
E
So, yeah,
pronto, acabou.
That is like not consistent at all.
Acabou as aranhas. A aranha não gosta de roxo.
Again, that
thinks
is.
he's got some weird like homeopathy pseudoscience for getting that consistent, but
That has to do.
A aranha não gosta de roxo e tem uma chave com a aranha.
You approach the damage cap and whether or not the BLL BD long legs shakes all the purple Pikmin off of him while they're attacking. So.
Yeah. But that's nice. I mean, fast BLL, that's like not a huge thing. It saves probably like 8 seconds, I think.
É, ele ganhou 8 segundos naquela fase. Não. A aranha era a chave, exatamente. Eu tô esperando pra vender a chave. 8.700 agora. Nem peça baratinha soltar um turbo, exatamente.
He just sits there and acts really confused and dies obediently, which is honestly all you can ask for an enemy in Pikmin 2.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about different strategies that each of us has. And one thing that we kind of like to joke about is that if you showed any of us top runners a video,
pra mim, quando vai ser o bloco de jogos bizarros, na quinta-feira, o Laporini, vai começar na quinta-feira, eu vou até confirmar aqui o horário pra você. O On-Block nosso vai começar na quinta-feira, dia 7, às 2h19 da manhã, com o jogo Zelda The One of Gamelon CDI. E com certeza eu estarei aqui narrando pra vocês.
Because the way they're going to play the game, they're just going to value different things to you, and they'll have different skill sets that will develop sort of naturally. So it's incredible. That's why new runners in this game, like, usually can contribute something meaningful pretty quickly. I think I was like in the scene for about a year, and I rerouted something.
Vai ser sim.
Paper Mario, like famed Super Mario
Esse jogo
Sunshine,
preciso ver.
100% runner. Like he also contributed a route change relatively quickly, and it's just like there's quite a bit to go at.
Excuse me, princess.
The more people that run a game, the more people that have eyes on a game, you know, the more optimized it gets. And I think that a lot of us, some of us don't have pride, and those that do, you know, learn to swallow it, you know, in the face of, you know, new information. And I think that we're really
agora, eu
in that sense, you know, like anyone can contribute, you know, as long as your ideas are good, and as long as the timer is fast, that, you know, we want to have your ideas, you know.
Yeah, exactly. A lot to go at. Alright, so last cave in the game.
Última tela do jogo.
Agora
é uma caverna interessante pra caramba, porque só tem dano elétrico e pode acontecer todo tipo de dano elétrico ridículo nessa parte.
The other thing that makes this cave really
A boia de
stressful
pesca, pô.
are enemies called red bugs. You'll see one on the next. Excuse me, sorry. You'll see one on the next
Eu
floor.
chamo aquilo de
But they can
peão.
snag treasures, snag enemy corpses, all that stuff, and take them underground. And if they take them underground, you got to kill the red bug, and they are a pain in the butt to kill. Yeah, we'll see.
Eles são
We'll
muito
see if he's
chatos
gonna
de matar,
kill
que eles
one
estão
here
falando
while we're
agora.
not yet.
Os bichos que vêm agora são muito chatos de matar.
So it's basically, imagine the inconvenience of Dweevils before, but then just exacerbate that even further.
Eles estão invadindo
And it's
uma
because
cozinha
they
agora.
take so long to kill as well, whereas Dweevils you can just
Melhor
melt them and
Zelda,
they drop
concordo.
treasure.
Melhor
But
Zelda.
here they will steal
O End
it,
of
the treasure
Camelot.
is gone. You can't negotiate, they won't just give it back. Like, you have to actually kill them, and the fastest way of doing that is hitting them one by one, and I think each hit is about like, I don't know, like an 8th or 10% of his health or something, so it takes a really long
Então,
time.
os inimigos que eles vão enfrentar aí, eles estão dando por apenas. Então você tem que ir batendo por nos inimigos, já que eles roubaram o tesouro.
And purples don't do extra damage to red bugs for whatever reason. So all Pikmin do the same amount of damage. So that's one reason that they're such a pain.
For one enemy, purples cannot just absolutely run over without
Esses
thinking about it.
bichos aí, ó.
So here we
Ele
see
tem que
both of
acertar
the red bugs
por
forms
nesses
quite close
bichos
here. So
pra
they have
poder
these little homes,
fazer o resto.
essentially. They will take treasures back to when they're stealing them. So it's actually really nice to have
Porque eles
one.
podem roubar o tesouro de você enquanto você tá levando os tesouros pra casa.
I'm probably gonna do that before I...
Então ele joga um Pikmin ali, vai atrás de tesouro, joga em outro e vai indo.
In a peace of mind. And I'm aware that that blowhog as well is moving. So I'll need to be careful about that too. In fact, I'm gonna do this. So that enemy over there is called a puppy.
Ele tá matando os inimigos ali que pode atrapalhar ele. Como é uma run de maratona, ele tá fazendo isso. Normalmente ele não faz.
But they can't push purples because purples are
Tem
chunky
bait.
boys and they get the job done no matter what it takes. So as you can see, the blues and whites sort of fell off the treasure there, but the purples sort of trooped onto it.
Heckin' shocker, buddy.
Yeah, they are large lads.
9k,
So
falta
just march through it
pouquinho
all.
agora pra
And
acabar o jogo.
I'm happy to take that sort of small amount of time for insurance. Like loading the purples on there to make sure they got through him unscathed was really important. So even if it did take like 3 or 4 seconds away from the overall probably end time of the
E
floor.
foi 9k e 100.
Yeah. So the only thing I'm now thinking about in the back of my head, apart from don't kill all your Pikmin, is make sure I get 10
A única coisa que
bubbles,
você tem
or maybe a little bit more, I
você tem
think.
que ter
So there are enemies on this floor that I think I'm gonna need to be
prestar
pretty
atenção em
thorough
entregar
with
todos os
collecting
tesouros do subnível,
to
porque
make
se
sure I
você
can hit
errar
that
esse
total,
subnível,
'cause you don't wanna be
você
a guy in
perde
the final floor of the game with your
a
pants
run
down and not enough money.
e
That's
você não pode
embarrassing.
matar seus Pikmin. Então você tem que
So
se
we'll try and avoid it.
preocupar e
Ooh,
prestar
this was
atenção
already
em
had
dobro
that
nessa tela.
No. Yeah.
Another fun thing about this floor, any floor with red bugs really, is that sometimes the game will just randomly crash. It's very unlikely. It
Nessa
happens
tela,
maybe, like,
por algum motivo de programação ou não se sabe o motivo, esse jogo pode crashar do nada nessa fase. Simplesmente cracha, sem motivo nenhum. Então a gente tá torcendo para que não crache. O cara que tá falando com vocês é o segundo colocado. Ele tava quase 2 minutos a menos do recorde, fazendo um recorde mundial, e o jogo simplesmente crashou e ele perdeu a run dele.
Oh my naivety.
There's also on a couple of these floors, so on this one that he just
Oh,
got to
quatro,
clear, and on the second floor of this cave, sometimes treasures can be in
9
high
e 15,
locations. You're
mais ou menos
supposed to
agora.
use yellows to get them. You can actually use some kind of glitchy
F
purple
pela
throws.
run do cara,
Purples
exatamente.
have weird collision, so you can use that, and that will give them some extra height that can get up to those ledges. We didn't see any of those throws in this run.
Olha, vai dar save porque pode dar aquele crash básico. Ele não quer perder a run.
Not using yellows under any circumstance or better than that. Never, I refuse. Early blues is too cool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is actually, so this floor, very stressful. Cannon beetles in the middle of everything, just, they wanna absolutely wipe you. They wanna nuke your board, but we are not having it.
Olha o tanto de Pikmin, velho. Meu
nice thing
Deus.
about this does end up being that we're toward the end of the run, So we really don't care too much about our Pikmin counts or anything like that. So he's not gonna kill too many of the enemies that are in the way.
Ele não vai tentar matar muitos inimigos no caminho, porque pode lagar o jogo. Então ele vai mais de boa.
Which is fantastic.
They decided to be cool, so that's nice.
So yeah, this layout was, you know, kind. No, run! No purple goes in vain. We're so close. We're so close to the end. We gotta keep our squad with us.
Dwarf full bears are actually
Falta
relentless.
pouquinho pra acabar a run. O cara tá querendo desistir e dormir. Dá pra suportar ele pela Luiz. 2,60.
Chasing the antenna. It's pretty funny to see.
Yeah, basically little Liam Neesons.
2,700 mais ou menos agora.
They will do anything they can to absolutely destroy you.
You need
They will find you.
13 in bodies. You know that.
13? No,
13.
less than that, I think. Just 3. Because I need.
Falta pouco.
Sorry, you're
9, 7,
automatically
12.
including the giant bread bug, and I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Right.
Yes.
So we collect this enemy here, another bane of existence of Pikmin speedrunners type enemy. I think.
Esses inimigos agora são só outro
So
filho da mãe que pode destruir essa run.
I was just gonna
Pode
say,
destruir
he's a
essa
loaf of
run.
bread. If you ever forget his name.
He is inarguably.
Bread-like.
These guys could be
Os
argued
caras
that they're
roubando
like
ovo,
little
velho.
brioche buns.
Uma rosquinha. Meu Deus do céu.
Vamos
Vamos lá, Pikmin. Vocês conseguem roubar.
Yeah,
And he
boy.
does whatever he wants.
But basically, so
that's
this
like
is
why we hate him.
this is the traditional
Tá
way
roubando um
to
Pikmin
do
aqui agora.
damage to bread bug enemies. So if you've ever seen like a Pikmin 1 speedrun, this is how they do it. But if they carry in an enemy corpse or a treasure, what they'll do is they'll automatically get damaged when they get sucked up toward the top of the ship. So you saw the giant bread bug
Ele
is gonna
fala
take
que
2 hits to get
se
on
você
land.
estiver
The
com
regular bread bugs
inimigos
take
junto com o tesouro,
one suck up plus
quando
one
esses
other
inimigos
small
estão
hit.
tentando carregar o tesouro,
Yeah, like one,
quando eles
like you
tentam
could
ser
just throw a Pikmin
sugados,
on it,
eles
like
tomam
here,
dano.
and it would confirm the kill.
E aí morre e aí você consegue ganhar
So
dinheiro
now I
mesmo.
think we've got pretty much everything in. It looks like everything's coming through in the correct time.
E já tá acabando já
So
o.
here, if you get the
a
bread
run.
bug in this cutscene, you can see he's died because he collected an anode beetle before, and this cutscene.
Enquanto isso, o
is
bichinho
sort
tá
of
morrendo ali do lado.
Are we gonna get exactly? If we're good, we might get actually exactly 10,000 for AGDQ.
It is maybe, solid maybe, because I think that
Ih,
bread bug
tá
will collect
terminando.
it, it'll die.
No, but it's fine, right? Because
quase a
you
hora.
need 10 more Pokos, correct? Yeah, you do.
Oh, the giant bread
No,
bug will, but I meant the
you're
little
gonna
one.
get
9.890.
That's very neat.
Talvez
Urban
continha
called it, right?
exatamente
'Cause
10
you
mil.
just don't collect that,
Que normalmente passa.
that small bread bug under any circumstances. So.
All according to plan. So there you
Yes.
go. I
Perfect.
think we've routed everything correctly.
Yeah.
Ended at a neat.
Time is rapidly approaching, by the way.
O tempo tá acabando,
Yeah,
tá
so
chegando
30
aí.
seconds from now, yeah.
So time is when it cuts to black.
Tá chegando o
after,
time.
It says like you have paid off the
30
debt, and then it'll cut to
segundos.
black, and that's when time is. But yeah, so everything went well. No resets, no disasters. But yeah.
Sem reset, sem nada. E
Excellent.
Same on the last split, but there you go. I think that's pretty much everything covered as well.
tá
So,
terminando
yeah, the
aí
game will
a
hold
run.
you out here for
Agora ele vai entregar o
Perfeito.
dinheiro e acabou.
GG's, Jack. GG's.
Congratulations, Jack. First time Pikmin 2 has ever been included.
Time, pessoal. GG.
Fantastic run, so congratulations.
Dare I ask what the final time is? I suspect
Yeah.
1:45.
GGWP.
141,
1 hora
53 is
48
what I have.
41 minutos.
Oh, okay.
54
Not a bad
segundos.
Yeah, that's
Um
I'm actually
tempo
happy with that.
muito bom, cara. Muito bom mesmo.
Final
So I
shoutouts
guess,
you have?
yeah, final shout outs, huh? The Pikmin speedrunner community, it's been a
Bem,
pleasure to be a part of it. and
quero
to get to know
agradecer a
everyone, and it's been
vocês que estão
fantastic. We've met up
assistindo
with
aí.
GDQ several times. I
Obrigado
think
por
we're at that
acompanhar a gente
perfect
mais um
size where it
pequeno.
feels like I know everyone, and
Continue
everyone
aí
knows
com
everyone. So it's
vocês
just
que vai vir agora o
fantastic,
Betão
and they're
com
so diligent
Metal
and
Gear
passionate
Solid
about the
4.
game, and it's really inspiring.
Yeah,
Eu
I
vou
also
me
want to do just a quick
despedindo
shout
aqui.
out to some of the old boys who have been around the community for a really long time, who have inspired a lot of us to keep pushing. So that'd be Pie Pusher, TCB Trio, and Ghostly, who I don't think we've talked about yet. So I
Então, o
just wanna say
Beto
thank you
Costa
to all of
tentando aí
them.
pra narrar pra
You
vocês
guys
o
have
metal.
made this community fantastic, so thank you.
Vou
And
me
if
despedindo
anybody,
aqui,
of
porque eu
course, I
tenho
mean, it
que
kind of goes without saying,
simplesmente
is interested in
tirar
playing
cochilo
Pikmin,
pra ir
just
trabalhar.
find the Discord on speedrun.com, and
Vejo
I
vocês
personally will
na
answer your questions. That's
próxima
promise.
madrugada
Unless
a
like thousands and
partir
thousands don't
de
show up, in which
Diablo
case
3? Não, a partir de Mortal Shell.
I can guarantee you that
Parte de Mortal
when
Shell,
Rerunner
estou de
goes
volta.
live,
Então
the
pegarei
entire
Mortal
top
Shell,
runners
Wide Arms,
bombard the Twitch chat. You know,
Ultima,
we will
Journey
watch
e
your
vários
new
outros.
run. We will do it. That is
É
a
isso aí,
threat.
gente. Tamo junto,
we,
fui.
we will be in there, you know. So like we're gonna help you. So if you wanna take a run, you know, we're glad to show you the ropes. So.
Brilliant. And I think that's everything from us.
Yep.
So
all right. Yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks so
guys.
much.